well, if my resting heart rate's 90 something,
Yeah.
something is going on. That was a real eye opener for me because I always just thought 4 or 5 hours of sleep, that's good enough.
Hi, everybody. Well, welcome back if you've been following our channel. Today we have a treat for you. We're going to be interviewing Pam. Pam actually just graduated from the Transformer program, which is our rapid weight loss program. And it is more than just a diet. It's a lifestyle change. And we coach people in mindset, nutrition education, behavior change, and hopefully some activity that they enjoy and can incorporate into their schedules and their lifestyle. So it's basically a very holistic approach to weight management and lifestyle change. I have with me Tiffany Buck. Tiffany is Pam's coach, and they've got a lot to talk about. And I'm just so glad to have both you ladies here today. Well, let's get started. I've got a list of questions I'm going to refer to, and Tiffany's going to be asking some of her own as well. Pam, I'd love to know what was happening in your life when we first started coaching.
So it was fall, right? And we're getting ready for the Halloween to Christmas period, where, there's lots of temptations and not as much exercise during that period. And for the past 4 years, I have been needing to lose 30 pounds. And I stepped on the scale and I had not only hadn't lost any in the past 4 years, I was like 10 pounds heavier, and now I have to lose 40 pounds. And I've dieted in the past. I've lost and been successful at losing and keeping it off. But the past like 5 years, it's just like slowly crept up again. And here I am. I was getting ready. I was thinking, well, maybe I'll do HCG. I've done that in the past and been successful. And I've always been convinced with HCG, it's not so much the HCG is the fact you're only eating 500 calories, right? And I just did not. I mean, I'm okay with doing a real low calorie diet, but I don't want to do HCG again. I mean, I didn't believe it was a thing really. So I was really looking for something where someone would engage with me on a process, right? As opposed to just trying to think all the time about what I don't want to do. I don't want to eat more. I don't want to, like, what should I be doing? We've talked about that before. That has meant a lot to me in this program. And I was like, how do I get a coach that can work with me through this? And I was searching around for HCG, and that's kind of how I found you. But what I really liked was the idea that you thought the same way I did, was like, I don't really think HCG is a thing. Calories obviously are a thing. I'm very responsive to how many calories I'm eating. And so anyway, that's where I was. I was like at this cusp, like, okay, this cannot go on. I cannot continue to not only not lose the weight I need to lose, but gaining it. I was just very frustrated. So that's where I was at the point we started this program.
That's great. It sounds like the HCG diet, that 500 calorie diet, worked for you in the past, but it was very rigid. It's very limiting. It's like you get this list of 20 some foods you can eat, and it's just very, very rigid and very restrictive. So it sounds like you didn't really want to do that anymore. And you wanted to, you just wanted more this time for yourself. You could lose weight on 500 calories, but you just didn't like the method.
Well, yeah. And not only that, the other thing I almost forgot about was, I just turned 61.
Gosh,
And
you don't
I
look
am
it.
not as strong as I used to be, right? I mean, I have always gained muscle pretty easy. As soon as I start working out, I gain muscle. I don't really do that anymore. And I have a lot of concern about just muscle loss with aging. I want to work and be productive for like another 20 years. And this declining muscle mass is a big concern for me. And I was really worried if I just went this total low calorie, that the additional muscle loss would be detrimental to me, really health wise. And I have to say, not to get ahead of things, but part of doing this with the scale, the Arboleaf, I think is what it's called, scale, looking at the body mass ratios. I have lost a little bit of muscle, but I mean, I've lost like 15% of my visceral fat, right, in this process. I mean, my total pounds aren't that much, but my muscle mass, it went down a little bit, but really small part of the ratio. And that was one of my big concerns as the start of thinking about a really low calorie diet, because when I do that, I cannot exercise, right? I mean, or my exercise is very limited. So that was the other place I was with that very low calorie brute force method this time, was I just didn't think I could afford to lose that much muscle mass.
Congratulations for taking a really smart approach to weight loss. I think too many people just want to lose the weight and they don't care if that's muscle or fat, or they don't even know that when you lose weight, actually, a portion of that tissue is muscle loss and can be bone loss. So that's why we do a higher calorie, high protein protocol, but it's still a rapid weight loss approach. So the calories are low, but we actually care very much about the quality of the food that you're eating so that you can preserve your muscle mass, preserve as much bone as possible, and some people even gain muscle on our protocol, but not everyone. Those tend to be the outliers. Yeah, it matters so much for your overall metabolism, for your overall metabolic health, your blood sugar sensitivity. People lose weight, and sometimes their blood sugar sensitivity may not improve that much because they've lost so much muscle when they lost weight. And that muscle is really important. So kudos to you. You mentioned a couple other things I wanted to touch on. The Our Belief scale is something that we ship all our clients in the Transformer program so we can monitor and they can see the changes in tissues and body composition. So are they gaining muscle? Are they losing muscle? How much muscle are they gaining or losing? Are they maintaining? How much fat tissue are they losing? Because for every pound of weight that you lose, there's going to be, for most people, a small amount of muscle mass. And the leaner you are, the more muscle mass you're going to lose as well. And we track all this data with our clients. And I'm not sure of any other coaches that do that. That actually gather data on their clients to see, okay, of the weight loss, how much of it was fat tissue, how much was muscle tissue. I think not enough people care about that, and they really should care. Do you have anything to add to that, Tiffany?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that was mentioned earlier was referring to the HCG itself, and how a lot of the HCG programs or protocols have this very limited list of foods that you can eat from, and they even tell you no lotions, no oils, things like that on your skin. And how we differ from them is we look at that list and we say, yeah, okay, but our goal is to not only improve your body weight, but to improve your overall health. And if we only focus on a specific list of things, we're not realistically helping clients do that. We want to teach you guys balance. And we want to teach you about the importance of the nutritional choices that you're making. And if you're limiting things to such a small group of food, you don't really have that opportunity to learn about that as much. And another big thing is a lot of the HCG protocols, the protein intake is just way too low. Um, for the clients following that specific food list, which is where we end up really falling into this, okay, well, are we losing more muscle mass or are we losing more fat? Not enough protein, you're going to end up losing a lot more muscle. Whereas if you just increase that protein a little bit, kept the calories the same, a lot more of that body fat's going to be lost instead. So, Pam, I think that it's fantastic that you were just so mindful of not just seeing a number on the scale, but also asking, how is this going to affect my body? How is this going to affect my quality of life? How is this going to affect my overall health? So I think that that was a great mindset. I'm really happy that you found us and that you're pretty happy with how everything has turned out.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I
I just
really,
realized
So,
there might be people watching this going, what's going on with Tiffany and her neck? Do you want to explain?
yeah.
sure, sure. Yeah, I know this is a lot. I just had spinal surgery on my neck because I had just some issues going on with my discs back there. So if I look a little bit like a robot, it's okay. Just ignore that. It's fine. I swear.
Yeah. And that was like how long ago was that? 2 weeks?
2 weeks ago. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got to wear this for 10 more weeks.
Yep, yep, yep. It's gonna be
Well,
fun.
it'll be off in time for spring, right? So that's good.
Yes.
All righty. Well, let's get back to
So
some of our questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Y- Yeah, so the next thing that we really wanted to talk about is whenever we onboard clients for the Transformer program, we have this whole data sheet that we fill out. And one of the questions on there is what are some of your biggest challenges? Can you list two of your biggest challenges? And Pam, whenever you filled that paperwork out, you said that your biggest challenges was maintaining consistency, especially because of your travel schedule, because you travel quite frequently, and also during social situations. Both of those are very, very challenging times of life to navigate. And we're just curious if you can give us an example of what your travel schedule looks like and how that was challenging throughout this program, as well as any of those social situations that you encountered.
So when I started this program, when I think about all the challenges I had in just life, how it would be a good time to say maybe I'll do that later because I had a new job. It's doing supplier quality all over the United States. So and I have a lot of people in Florida, and I live in California. I have a lot of people in California, and because it's new, I have new people. I need to travel and see them. So I'm going back and forth between Florida and California most of the time. It's a 3 hours difference. So not only that, it expanded my window because mostly I was based in California before. So now I've got people getting up, 4 a.m. my time, right, in California. And then California would go like so my day expanded. And then when I travel, the 3-hour difference, I in the past have always kind of been able to ignore that because I don't stay long enough that it really affects me. But now I'm staying long enough that it's like I'm jet lagged all the time, going back and forth between these two places. And I traveled like in the last 6 weeks, I've been home 2 weeks. So, I'm traveling more than 50% of the time right now. I mean, I don't expect that to continue that way, but that's where I was when we went into this program, right? Just a big uptick in the travel. Well, some of it was my vacation also, but still that time zone, 3 hours of time zone change routinely. I already have a hard time with consistency. I live my day kind of stream of consciousness when it comes to food and exercise. Like I get up if I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not, I don't. And I realize I'm really hungry at 10. I eat. I'm just like all over the map on when I eat, which makes it really easy to overeat. Because you get to the end of the day and you're tired and you don't know how much you already ate. And I just feel like eating again. So I eat again. And I may be eating 3,000 calories that day. So I wanted to get consistency in my eating because I thought that would help with the overgrazing thing where I don't know how much I eat and I just keep eating. And then I get super hungry and then I probably overeat. So my thinking was that if I could find a way to get consistency, even with the time changes and all that, that would help me get to more habit in my eating. That's a good habit, right? So that's why I said it was my biggest challenge.
We love it when people are really clear what their challenge is and they want to work with us to fix those challenges because they don't always know what to do. You're not alone in that. We shift workers also really struggle. It disrupts your circadian rhythms, which then disrupts your leptin, your satiety hormone, ghrelin, your hunger hormone, your cortisol, your sleep. When we're not sleeping as well, we actually store more fat. We can lose more muscle. And it's hard to regulate, like I said, the hunger and satiety levels. So it makes sense that you would want to create not just some consistency, but maybe a bit of a schedule, and not just sort of eat whatever you want when you want. Because setting up a routine for ourselves can really help with managing hunger and things like and energy, stuff like that. Any thoughts, Tiffany?
I think that the other thing that really comes to my mind is you mentioned how you're constantly having to go back and forth from the different time zones. And you're absolutely right. That can cause a disrupt in our natural, drawing a blank on words right now, Adele.
Circadian
Um,
rhythms?
yes, thank you very much. Our natural circadian rhythm. And that's when we typically fall into those trends of this is when I typically get hungry. This is when I typically feel tired. This is when I typically need to go to sleep at night. And when you're constantly traveling, it does disrupt that. So just being mindful of that and kind of planning for that in advance can help you navigate it, but it's still challenging. So I just think that the fact that you were aware of that already going into this program and you didn't allow yourself to say, maybe I'll just wait until the next round. Maybe I'll just wait until the next round and wait for things to calm down. Because that's also another big thing that we see is people want to start a new diet. They want to start a new lifestyle, but then they say, wait a minute, I've got this wedding, I've got this travel event, I've got this holiday. But whenever you stop and really think about life, it's never guaranteed that it's going to slow down and be the perfect time to do something new or to change habits. And even if everything aligned perfectly and everything was calm in life, it's still challenging to change habits. You still have to put in work. So, I guess my big thing right here, based on everything that you said, is don't be as scared. Don't be scared to start something new because you're in um, a challenging time right now because things are constantly changing. Because at the end of the day, there's never a perfect time to start something new.
Exactly. So you went through the holiday period. You went through Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. How was it? How challenging was it on top of your travel schedule?
One of the big aha things for me was the idea that it's not so much if you get off track, but how fast you get back, right? So it's okay to get off track, just get back. It was something I learned with focus a long time ago. I used to not be able to focus. And in practicing focus, what I realized, and I've read some of the neurological studies on this, people who are good at focusing, it isn't that their mind doesn't wander, it does. They're just good at bringing it back. And so I kind of started applying that principle to this. It was an aha moment for me in this program was, oh, it's kind of the same with this. It's not that you don't get off track, you just get back on quicker. So I definitely had moments of getting on track and back on track. And one thing I thought was good about doing it during normal life, I mean, I'd like to say my last few months was unusual, but that's pretty typical in my career. I take on big challenges. I do new things. I have to do something different. And it could be stressful if I let it be. So during a time that's especially challenging, practicing, bring it on track, bring it back on track, bring it back on track. I think that's the muscle that I got to exercise that was useful for me and will be useful going forward.
Beautiful. You know, I always like to say that your greatest challenge is your greatest opportunity for growth. And you were willing to say, all right, this is my life. There's no perfect time. I'm going to sign up for this program and I'm going to get these coaches help to navigate through these challenges and figure this out because, really until you figure it out, nothing changes, So I think it's great. I also think there was an additional challenge we haven't touched on for you. Yes, the circadian rhythms, the changing time zones, but environment is something I appreciate so much more now after coaching for over 5 years. Our environment can set us up for success or make things a lot more challenging. And so you're in a hotel room, you're constantly shifting where you can eat, where you can work out, and your environment is not setting you up with cues for success. So you have to figure out how you're going to do that. Like, what are the triggers that you can set up that will actually elicit a response to make you go work out, to make you eat right, you open the mini fridge in the hotel or your Airbnb, what's inside of it? Do you have something healthy on hand? Can you touch upon some of the things that maybe you set yourself up with when you were traveling? Did you give any thought to those cues?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and I can't say that I was on a linear path to success on this, but what I did find over the course of the last 3 months was when I was most successful was when I stuck to the on the weekend planning what I was going to do. So if I know I'm going to be traveling, I found some packaged meat for my protein that I would like freeze that so that when it was time to go, I can take at least enough to get me through the first couple of days when I get there. So I have time to go shop. And then making sure I pack that fridge with the things that I like to eat, like I love getting romaine and put some meat and some like bell pepper. I like crunch in my food. So still shopping. Okay, this was something at the beginning. I asked Adele, I'm not going to have to cook, am I? Because I don't like to cook. I like to eat out. I like to order food. She said, no, you're going to have to cook, Pam. But that really makes all the difference in me sticking to what I need to do. And I found I really don't hate it. As a matter of fact, I've gotten so you don't know what people put in your food. I'm thinking about that, like, what kind of oil? They probably use some kind of crappy oil in this food and I'm going to eat it, after I'm doing all this hard work. But if I do my own food, I know what's going in it and it's just simple food. So I would say, and I like the last week I got extended on my travel and I didn't do that. I ate like crap the last week because I didn't do that. So every time where I would spend the time to have food in the beginning to get me through 2 days so I can find time to shop, fill up the fridge with the things I'm going to want to eat. And for the love of Pete, I'm in Florida where the weather's beautiful. And if I have my own food, I can just pack something, go out to the beach, enjoy the good weather and have a picnic instead of going in some restaurant. So doing that definitely made it successful for me. Planning the first 2 days, shop while I'm there. And the last week I was gone, I did not do that. And, my little diary of food shows it, right?
Mm-hmm.
My calories were high, the fat was high, the protein was low. If I don't do that.
I think the challenge for you going forward, like you're off of the dieting stage, right? So incorporating more eating out, because that is going to be your lifestyle forever, but still making some easy meal prep at home or out of your Airbnb or hotel and being able to have live in both worlds comfortably, making good choices, eating out, not overeating, and when you're out in restaurants and stuff like that. And then also healthy food available in the fridge that's easy to put together. I think that's the next step. Would you agree with that, Pam?
100%, because
yeah,
one of the reasons that I do like to eat out, like I like to stay at the Hilton Garden Inn because it has a more homey feel to it. And they've got a little restaurant down there. And so I go down to the bar area to eat and I, meet these kids that are they're on a college project. I chat with them about what they're doing. I enjoy being around people. And if I just eat in my room all the time, that's too hermity for me. Right. And I enjoy going and doing that. So I do agree. I'm going to have to figure that out because otherwise, especially on a long trip where I don't see my family here and all that, I just like the social aspect of going out.
Mhm.
Right. So
It
I'm a
sounds so isolated to just limit yourself to your hotel room. It doesn't sound like there's any joy in that. Um, yeah, I think it's almost like a staircase of mastery for these nutrition habits, right? So you got good at eating at home and making healthy choices, and then the next step is dipping into the deep end of the pool, where you're eating out and you're navigating those choices and having more freedom. And just to be clear, like it is like the P2, the diet phase is restrictive. So you have to be very careful when you're eating out. And it is just less challenging if you're preparing your own food. But we want people to actually experience real life as much as possible when they're transitioning to maintenance. Anything you want to add there, Tiffany?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing here is that you should treat a diet the way that you would treat your normal day-to-day life. If you're forcing yourself to eat things that you hate eating, chances are you're going to come off of the diet program and be like, wow, I can eat food again. And then you're going to end up overindulging because you felt too restricted in the diet process. So finding that balance between foods that you enjoy eating while in the lower calorie phase of your diet, whether it's, a very low calorie diet like the Transformer program or just, like the New You program, we do a higher calorie protocol. No matter what protocol you're on, finding ways to incorporate things that you enjoy can really help you in the long term of not feeling overly restricted.
I'm so glad you mentioned you like the bell peppers and things like that. So you found things
Mhm.
that, you like something crunchy. So finding that about yourself so your food is both satiating and satisfying is so important for long-term sustainability. I would love to know how you feel about your consistency and travel challenges now.
so where I am right now is I know things that work and things that don't work. And I just need the practice of doing it, getting it more habitual. Because like I said, once something threw me a little off, like extending a stay, then I just, so that week was kind of a wash. And well, and I have to say the other thing I didn't like about it, I didn't feel good, like eating more and getting crazy times. And it just didn't feel, health wise, just did not feel good doing that. So that's a good incentive that I hope
Mhm.
reinforces
Yeah.
this. But so I think what I got out of the program is I can see the things that work. So now it's a process of continuing to do them, but also hone in on some of the things you were saying. Because I do think once I was eating too much alone is when that last week that was extended, I was like, I don't want to eat in my room. I don't want to do it. So I was eating out more, but I didn't really have a great plan for that. So that'll be the next phase, is working on those things, incorporating more of the eating out and doing it right. That will be a challenge for me because yeah, I'm used to, if I'm eating out, it's a party.
Right, right.
I know.
Um, I think two steps forward and one step back is still progress, Pam.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I
some,
agree. I was thinking about that as I was reading over some of the things from what we've done the past few months. Is that in the end, I lost 10 pounds. I think I lost a little more and then kind of regressed maybe in the last couple of weeks, a little bit, but overall 10 pounds. But if you think about that, it was from Thanksgiving through New Year's, right? 10 pounds I lost instead of maybe gaining 5 more or something. And what I really, really loved is we've talked about this before, but I'm really big on, I do a lot of habit change for company, for my organization. And it's always a principle of mine. You need to focus on what to do, because if you keep focusing on what not to do, you can never get it out of your head and you keep going back to it.
Mhm.
You've got to replace it with what to do. And that's one thing I loved about this, is by focusing on the habits and things like that, you're thinking about what to do, not don't eat this, don't do that. That would make me crazy. So bringing it back to the question you asked, where I am, I love it that I've identified things to do. And now I can focus on doing those things and maybe tweaking them to improve them.
Mhm. And those good habits can start to automatically and naturally displace some of the bad habits,
Mhm.
and it's like you're being pulled to wanting more in life instead of like running away from things. Yeah, I like that. I like that you're focusing on what you can do. That's way more empowering.
Yeah. And it's
Mhm.
actually, then it becomes fun, like,
Mm.
because you're thinking, well, that worked. Now, what else can I, it's like, it's fun instead of, sorry, I can't have that. Or, I mean, instead making it's become kind of like a fun project for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you also mentioned that you have to keep continue practicing these habits as well. Because I do feel like a lot of times, again, diet ends and people go, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. But whenever you continue to practice the things that make you feel good and that are working for you, that's when we continue to see those long-term improvements. And habits, just like anything in life, if you stop practicing them, they can regress. They can start to go back in the opposite direction. So whenever you stay mindful of those things and you continue to say, this is working, this is not working as much, how can I change things slightly and practice to make this situation work a little bit better? Like, for example, extending the trip. I love that you have a plan for that now for the next time that that happens. And your goal is to practice creating that balance between eating in your room and also eating for your goals, and also eating out in those social situations. So I love the word that you said, you're just going to keep practicing.
Thanks.
I'd like to ask you about your goals coming into the program. You touched on, like, you felt like you wanted to lose 40 pounds. You also had some health goals, like getting stronger was one of them, losing some visceral fat. Do you want to talk about those goals maybe?
Yeah, so we mentioned in the beginning that one of my concerns with a really low calorie diet was I did not want to go backwards for sure on my strength. And I can definitely tell I'm weaker than I used to be. And as I'm getting older, it's something I want to focus on. And so going forward, that part of it really important to me is not okay. So now we've kind of stemmed the tide of strength loss, but I really want to get to the point where I'm focusing on gaining some of that back. And I enjoy strength training. So I really want to find a way to get that incorporated and, start measuring it and making progress.
So what's your plan next then to get some of the strength back?
Okay, so one thing my plan is to work with Tiffany to help me figure out what my plan is. So we had a little strength training plan, but I found that with the other things I was focusing on, I just really didn't get to that part. But I did increase my walking, which was great. And I started to incorporate a little strength training, but I never really got it going. So I just want to get more disciplined about that and come up with a program. But my plan is to work with Tiffany on that to figure out what the best approach for that is.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy to help you there.
Well, I'm really excited to start that part of it. And so one of the things going forward, I think, is like my sleep is crap. My sleep is crap. I slept less than 4 hours last night. I mean, I know, and that is not uncommon for me. I mean, I have my whole life only slept 4 or 5 hours, and I really thought it was no big deal. But my son got me wearing this Fitbit. He was wearing it, and he was talking about his sleep patterns and the difference it made in his resting heart rate. When I sleep 5 hours or less a night, my resting heart rate is close to 90 beats a minute, 90, right? If I sleep 7 hours, my resting heart rate is 70. I mean, that's a difference in my heart rate. I don't physically notice any difference in my focus or anything else between getting 5 hours and 7 hours. But when I sleep 7 hours, I get one more phase of sleep in, and my heart rate is 70, my resting heart rate is 70. And that's got to add up over time, So I have got to do something about my sleep. So that focus going forward, I think for me, is consistently getting 7 hours. I do sometimes get 7 hours sometimes, but not consistently. So sleep and then the strength training. I really love the idea of focusing on those two things. And you can imagine sleep's going to be challenging because of the travel, right? But I've been studying up on different methods people use who travel a lot. And I just want to get to the point where I can get 7 hours every night, get those 3 full cycles of sleep, and then do some strength training. So that's what I'm thinking of for the future. Of course, I would like a result of that. I mean, think of the insanity of me saying, I just want to lose some fat, which is a good goal, but ignoring the fact that I'm sleeping 4 hours a night. I mean, what is the point of that? I think if I fix the sleep, it will go a long ways to fixing the fat problem.
It absolutely will. Sleep is like the number one thing people really need to focus on for their health and their well-being and weight management. So those are wonderful goals, really. And we can help with that for sure. And the sleep will also help with building muscle and recovering from workouts and things like that.
It's really outrageous to sleep 4 hours. I mean, that's really,
I don't know how you do it. Honestly, I think what happens is this becomes people's normal, and they don't realize how good they would feel if they had just a little more sleep. And mental clarity, mood, optimism, energy, so many things are affected by our quality sleep.
Well, I got to tell you, it was a shock to me to see the difference it made in my resting heart rate.
Yeah.
From 90 to 70.
I haven't heard of that. And if that's affecting your resting heart rate so much, what else is being impacted underneath, if your body's like this iceberg, what else is going on underneath the surface,
When I
Um,
think of stress levels too in that aspect, because stress is a big thing. If you have a lot of stress, your body tends to hold on to more fat, especially that abdominal fat. So, by improving your sleep, you're exactly right. It could really help with your body fat percentage.
and
Yeah,
you're aging.
well, yeah, and it's really weird to me because I'm I think anyone would tell you I'm not a stressed person. I'm very calm,
Yeah.
Um, I just, even in urgent situations, I'm able to be a very calm person. And I would have thought there's no impact of this little sleep stress with stress. I'm not stressed. Well, if my resting heart rate's 90, something's going,
Right.
Yeah.
something is going on. That was a real eye opener for me because I always just thought 4 or 5 hours of sleep, that's good enough. Until I saw that heart rate. What happens is that third round of sleep, my resting rate goes low. And then it stays low all day, but
Mhm.
it doesn't make that final drop until I get that third cycle of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned how you're 61 and you want to work for another 20 years. And I totally think that's possible as long as you have your health. The reason why people used to retire at 65 is because they didn't live as long and their bodies just got worn out. And it was typically men, they just were tired and became frail and weak and started having health issues. And it wasn't long after 65 that most men died. So as long as you are healthy and strong and have energy and vitality and your mind is clear, there's no reason why you can't work into your 80s. Look at Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett in their 90s. It's totally possible as long as we take care of our health. So I think you have a really great approach to this, that you're not just looking at a number on the scale, you're looking at all aspects of your health and well-being. What would you consider your biggest breakthrough in the Transformer program?
I think the biggest big picture breakthrough for me was the idea of um, getting back on track, like just practicing getting back on track. It's okay to get off track, just get back on track. I think that was my biggest breakthrough because I definitely have a tendency to um, like just if I get off track, just take me 3 months to get back on track. So like I was definitely off track the last week of the program, right? And then even maybe a day or two after that. But I'm kind of addicted to the tracker. So I was like, I can't leave blank spots. I mean, I just felt like so okay, that was that. And also just being happy about, hey, I wish I would have kept maybe going and gotten 14, 15 pounds, but 10 pounds between Halloween and New Year's, that's pretty great. And all the habit things. So the getting back on track thing. And then I always knew this, but I didn't know how to apply. What if I knew that focusing on don't eat, don't eat, don't eat was not the right approach, right? But couldn't figure out what to focus on. And I think the other big thing was finding things to focus on that were going to be impactful, that I could actually measure and feel the gain for it, that were the things to focus on. It's more than just the macros. I mean, I've known that in the past, that focusing on the right macros is a good thing to focus on. But for me, that wasn't enough. So focusing more on habits instead of just the macros, I think was the other aha for me.
What was a key habit for you? Because we talk every week, we ask people to identify a habit that they want to work on that week.
Um, a key habit for me is when I eat, and I have not really cracked the code on this yet, but when I've gotten the groove of eating breakfast and waiting 4 hours, eating lunch and waiting 4 hours, and eating dinner, and having it be pretty consistent times, to me, that is a key habit that I don't have down yet, that I think is the key to me being successful in the long term. Because it stops the grazing and thinking about eating all the time and all that. I think that's really good. And then the other habit that I haven't mastered yet, but I want to, is going to bed.
Mhm.
I'm like a 5-year-old. I just don't want to go to bed. I want to stay up. Something might happen, It's like
So
but
it's
I wake up at the same time no matter what. So last night I went to bed like at 1. So 5 o'clock I'm awake, and then I don't know. So going to bed, just going to bed. I need a minder. something to tell me.
It's so funny that you said that it's kind of like a 5-year-old, because I actually say that to clients a lot. I say, we have these bedtime routines for our kids. Why don't we create bedtime routines for ourselves? So I think that maybe that's a key habit that could help you, is what type of bedtime routine works for you. If you notice that you're staying up late for a specific reason, what are you staying up late for? Recognizing that trend, recognizing the current habit, and saying, how can I break this habit cycle and change it to something else? It gives you something to, again, not saying I can't do this, but instead of doing this, I'm choosing to do this.
Right.
So, yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
give you a little bit of a coaching tip?
Sure. Yes, please.
I'm 100% on board with what Tiffany said, but a real game changer for me for going to bed early was having something to look forward to waking up to. Like when we
Mhm.
stay in bed and don't want to get out of bed, it's typically because we don't have something exciting or enjoyable first thing in the morning to wake up to. So give yourself a bit of pleasure in the morning before the mayhem of the day kicks in. So for me, it's like a good book. Like I just look forward to my morning latte and about 30 minutes of reading. And that is such a treat that I have no issues waking up in the morning. So I would recommend something like that. And also make your evening bedtime ritual pleasurable as well. Hot bath, music, some light stretching, a cup of tea, something that gets you away from the blue screen as well. Because I know I can go down the YouTube rabbit hole for hours. I do not feel good about in front of the TV for more than 2 hours. I just feel yucky. Like a little bit is good, but more than 2 hours, I don't feel good about myself. So pay attention to that. I know in the coaching call, you said one thing you notice is you will eat for energy. You will start getting tired and you'll eat for energy. Totally relatable. So it's good to be like, all right, kitchen is closed at this time and I'm just going to go to bed instead of eating, because that's your body needing energy to stay awake. And it's telling you, you just need to go to bed, you know?
You just made me think of another habit that was a big aha thing for me, which just might seem small ball, but it was really impactful. If I eat dinner and I go for just a 30-minute walk, it completely eliminates my ability to eat almost, like, I'll come back from that little 30-minute walk after I eat dinner and I can't even think about the possibility of consuming food, which is a really weird feeling for me because I can usually eat almost anytime.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but that little walk and then telling myself, because a lot of times I'll go out and walk and I'll walk for 2 hours and I enjoy walking. But if I start telling myself I'm going to walk 2 hours, then I don't get my butt out the door. So I always just tell myself, I'm going to walk up the street 15 minutes, back the street, back 15 minutes. And a lot of times that's all I do. But I'm just amazed how that cuts my hunger in the evening.
I love it. I love that you have learned so many things in the last few months. Like it's more than the 10 pounds lost. It's you are learning about your body, you're listening, you're getting that biofeedback, you're creating new habits, you're dealing with the challenges of travel and disrupted circadian rhythms. Like these are all really big things to deal with.
That walking after dinner, I felt like calling people. Oh my gosh, you can't believe what I discovered,
Yeah. It's really good for your blood sugar and for digesting as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Yeah.
Cool.
The difference that makes. I enjoy walking at any time, but that evening walk after dinner makes it so I cannot eat in the I just can't. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good to know about yourself.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about things that you have realized about yourself, things that you've really enjoyed about the program. But I guess we're just kind of curious for our personal feedback and growth, and also for anyone watching the program that might be interested in taking the Transformer program. Were there things that you found that you did not like about the Transformer program?
Okay. So one thing might be somehow Tiffany knows this. I kept getting lost on the lessons. Like I didn't get them done and I didn't mean to not do them. How did I miss that? I think I saw the link, I'd go do the reading, and then when I was done, I forgot to go back. So this is probably a shortcoming on my part. But I thought it'd be kind of nice if there was a dashboard. So someday when your IT guy isn't very busy, maybe, I mean, that was one thing I found a little I don't know, maybe didn't I got caught up in occasionally. And I could, okay, so, but it did cause a wake up call because Tiffany said, hey, Pam, you forgot to do some lessons. And I thought, well, I just skipped one. I think I'll go back and do it. 4 weeks I hadn't done the quiz. I mean, I'd read the stuff, but I just forgot to do the quiz. So I can't say I didn't like it. You could say that was my own problem for not keeping track. But I thought of that. I thought, oh, it would be because you have the dashboard at the beginning of each email that tells you where you are in the lessons. And I thought, oh, if that was an actual website dashboard. I can see where I am and what I'm missing.
Mm.
So anyway, I thought of that. I don't think that's a biggie. And then the other thing I thought of the other day, I thought, I can't believe, you have the spreadsheet tracker, and I was thinking, we have all this software, like I track the macros and there's fitness, I was thinking, wouldn't it be good if instead of having to enter it, that it would do it somehow automatically? But I decided I don't think that's a good idea, because I think that when I have to go get the information and put it in the tracker, it makes me rethink all of it and review it, and if it was all, how when things become automated, sometimes you don't pay as much attention to them. So anyway, I had that moment of thinking that, but I decided I don't think that's a good idea. I think putting the information in the tracker is a good review. So I think you got to keep that manual. But yeah, keeping me from getting lost on which lessons I've completed.
Thanks, Pam. That's good to know. Yeah, I wish it'd be great if we could have a dashboard. I mean, right now it's just Tiffany letting people know, hey, you missed this quiz.
It's good.
I do think manually tracking is good, because then you have to look at the whole week, right? Whereas in MFP or whatever app you're using, you're just getting a daily snapshot. But with our tracker, you see like overall how consistent were you across the week, and then you can see week over week as well, which is a really good view.
So some of those
When
apps
I really
do show the weekly, and I have
Mhm.
looked at them before, but I think when you have to put it in, it really
Mm,
makes you take a critical look at it, that you might,
yeah.
if you're just glancing at a week's graph, you might not pay attention to. I'm sorry, Tiffany, I interrupted you.
Oh no, you're just fine. I love hearing your input and your thoughts about it. I think that for me, looking at the tracker, for you guys who've never seen the tracker before, the way that it's set up is there's three sections on the tracker. You have your goal section, which your coach provides your macro goals for you, total calories, and then you have a section in the middle where the client comes in and puts their data in. For Monday through Sunday. And the third column shows you where did you successfully hit your goals? Where were you a little bit over your macros? Where were you a little bit under your macros? And how does that balance out over the end of the week? So I think that whenever you physically have to go in and take your data from whatever tracking app you're using, most people use MyFitnessPal. You go into MyFitnessPal, you put all of that data that you tracked onto the tracker. Then you can look at, as Pam said, with a critical eye and say, where was I successful? Where was I challenged? Okay, well, now let me look back at my week and ask myself, how could I make sure that I had another successful week? Or how can I look at those challenging situations that I encountered and plan better for them so that next week I'm better prepared? And that's kind of the whole purpose of having those three columns on the tracker, is because we want our clients to see where they're doing really well, where they could use a little bit more encouragement, a little more help, and really have them look at things with a critical eye on their own and challenge themselves as well.
Yeah, like weekends. They might always fall off the wagon on the weekend or something like that. Yeah.
And
Well, appreciate
I
that
also
feedback.
liked that method of dialogue, where I would take some time, I'd put my thoughts in on some of the spreadsheet pages, and then let Tiffany know. She'd look at them, she'd make some comments back, ask a few questions. I thought that was a really thoughtful way to have a dialogue, where you're both putting some thought into it. I mean, I do like this kind of dialogue too. A lot of times I think by talking, but this layers it in where you do have this kind of dialogue along with written dialogue, a little bit more thoughtful, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what hesitations you had about working with us, at the beginning of the program. You mentioned you were loath to cook, right? And that was one of your hesitations, like, am I going to have to cook all my meals at home? What were there any other hesitations?
I really can't think of any other. Oh, maybe finding time for the weekly video calls, I knew the Tuesday midday one would be challenging. And sometimes you guys saw, I caught you on the fly, like I just got to my rental car and I turned on the call. So those calls I thought were really important. So I was a little worried about me having to miss some of them. So I didn't like missing them, but I was able to make enough of them that it was very helpful. I mean, they were very helpful keeping you on track. Like your conversation with Tanya, I almost missed that call. I was tired. It was late. It was in these guys, but I went ahead and sat in on it. And afterwards, I went and got on the treadmill, which I would not have done. I would have missed my walk that evening. So that I was a little concerned about having to miss some of those, but I think I was able to go to enough that it was impactful.
Did you ever watch the replays for calls you missed?
Yes.
Wonderful. Awesome.
I love it. So, what do you think that your ultimate takeaway from your journey throughout the Transformer program has been?
Mm, focusing on the process, whatever and continuing to hone what process is going to be sustainable for me, right? I've got some really good leads. That's what I feel like from this. I've got some really good leads that I've gotten that I know are working for me. So habituating those, but then just continuing to improve the processes. I'm really loving the idea of focusing on the processes, or focusing on strength and sleep instead of always just focusing on food.
Right.
I
I don't
love
want to
that.
make food
And I,
my enemy, because I actually really love food. So I don't want to make it my enemy. So, learning how to, partner with it, and focusing on other things, that's been great. And the idea of coming back on track. It's you get off track, that's life, get back on track. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic because there really is a lot of evidence behind when we focus on the process, we take a lot of the pressure and the stress off the outcomes. When we find enjoyment in what we're doing, you're going to work towards your goals. It might not be quite as fast as you wanted it to be, but that's okay because you're enjoying the things that you're doing. So you kind of start to see, I'm making progress. Maybe it's not super fast. Maybe I'm not losing 5 pounds in a week, which is usually unrealistic for most people anyway. But the point is that you're taking a lot of the pressure off of the end goal, and I love that.
That's interesting, Tiffany, because what you just said, I connected it with something I'd read recently, um, about a study with kids, that kids are more successful if you focus on, when you're praising them, you talk about the process they use more than the outcome. Because if you always say, "Oh, you're so smart because you got an A on that test," it, that is actually destructive to the kid. Whereas if you say, I thought that was great how you studied so hard for that test, or so if you praise the process, children have better outcomes than if you praise the outcome. And it's kind of interesting. That's what you just said. It must be something about the human mind, better to focus on the process.
And you're so focused on the process, like, you know, you could diet, lose 20 pounds in a 3 or 4 months, go really hard. But if you weren't focused on the lifestyle change, the behavior change, navigating these challenges, chances are the weight will just come back on.
Yeah.
You've lost 10 pounds, and now your chances of keeping it off are much higher because you've dealt with the root cause of the weight gain rather than just a bandage diet to quickly lose the weight. And then you get back to real life and nothing's really changed. So you've done a marvelous job, Pam. We're really proud of you.
Thanks. Appreciate all the help. Really, sincerely.
What advice would you give to anyone considering the Transformer program?
I would say, go ahead and jump in if you're in a really challenging time. It's all the more reason to do it. I mean, because you're going to be learning the lessons. So it's not really how much you lose in that 3 months. You're going to be practicing lessons in real life situations. I mean, that's what I did. I mean, I cannot think of a tougher time for me to have started it. And I feel really successful at it because I was looking at the process instead of just the weight. And I know I said I wanted to lose 40 pounds and I've only lost 10, right? You think of it that way, you think it's only 10. Well, that's 25% of where I needed to go. But the other thing that really gets me is how much of the visceral fat I've lost. So, um, you know, don't not do it because it's a challenging time. Although I think January is the time everybody wants to focus on their health. But even if you've got some challenging things going on, I think that's all the more reason to do it now. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, Pam, for that advice. I think it's absolutely true. Anything you want to add, Tiffany?
I just, I want to take a moment and acknowledge, Pam, that you showed up. And that's the biggest thing is you showed up. Not only did you show up, but in the most challenging times when you were sleep deprived, when you were traveling, you continued to do what you could, even if it was joining one of the calls for the last 5 minutes of the call. For you prioritized the things that you really wanted to focus on. And I think that that says a lot about your determination and loving self discipline. I think that all of these things really play into long term habit change change. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier is, you know, you like to walk, but if you said, I'm going to go for a 2-hour walk, you were less likely to do it than if you gave yourself permission to do a smaller chunk of that, 15 minutes out, 15 minutes back. And a lot of times, the best advice that anyone can do is commit to a small amount. And if you do more, that's great. That's bonus. So I just want to thank you for showing up and for doing every small thing that you could do, because it really does add up.
Such a great attitude. Well, Pam, I think we're going to end it here. I want to wish you, you know, an awesome 2024. And I'm glad to hear you're going to continue your journey with Tiffany in 2024. I'm excited for the changes that will come, because I know they're going to come. You're putting in all the effort.
Thanks. Thank you, both of you. I mean, I really appreciate the engagement on this. It's been just incredibly helpful. Keep me focused.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.